Men have a full container, like they've got a litre bottle and they're already filled at that litre. They don't know how to remove what's already in the container.
It's like I got a 20-kilo bar on my back and I'm just adding plates on both sides.
We are so connected to these things in our hands, the phone, the iPad, the Netflix, whatever it is, it gives us that constant rush and that feeling of a high. When we pick up a phone and we're looking at it, our energy goes from in here to into there.
Everyone on the outside sees success, $12 million business, property portfolio, beautiful family. What they don't see is me waking up 11 times last night thinking about work. Can you explain what is self-sabotage?
In its simple form, self-sabotage is when our nervous system goes beyond our window of tolerance and we call upon things that bring us out of the path we want to go towards and back into our old ways. Pretty much any time you can't sit with yourself would be the first thing. And the second thing is,
if you struggle with self-sabotage, it could be drugs, substances, maybe scrolling on your phone, work itself. We're gonna discuss why this occurs and how you can rapidly shift it inside of you. We also go deep into pornography. Is it good or bad? I share a story about how my wife and I had a massive disagreement in our relationship where we're both feeling hurt and upset and how it might apply to you. So whether you want to become more integrated, get more done, achieve more, be better, or you want better relationships, this podcast will change your life. It's with Todd Jarrett, an absolute expert on the topic of self-sabotage and becoming the person you know you can be. I hope you get a ton of value. Enjoy this podcast with Todd Jarrett. Alcohol, sedation, drugs, porn, masturbation, procrastination. We could write a rap song out of the topics we're going to cover off today. So many men, I think I'm guilty of this as well. We self-sabotage and we sedate with substances, screens, work, and then we suppress. We hold in these emotions, these problems, these challenges. I've got something I want to share today with the world and with you. Todd, why do so many men struggle?
In essence, men have a full container. Like they've got a litre bottle and they're already filled at that litre, like they're at capacity, and they don't know how to remove what's already in the container. They don't know how to let go, to release. They don't know how to remove the triggers, overcome the triggers, and so they're constantly at that capacity. And then life tries to pour more into them and they're already there, and as soon as life tries to pour more into them, they overflow. And the overflowing is the procrastination, the hesitation, the perfectionism, the drugs, the alcohol, the porn, whatever it is, insert vice here, social media scrolling, the binge buying, the binge eating. It's all just a way of getting away from that internal overwhelm or overload. So men have so much to carry, like even more now with how quickly life is going and how much is going on day to day. It's like we don't get a switch off.
Yeah, I felt that. I constantly feel this weight on the bar. You know, everyone on the outside sees success, $12 million business, property portfolio, beautiful family.
Yeah.
What they don't see is me waking up 11 times last night thinking about work, or the challenge I had with my wife.
Yeah.
They don't see the constant stress that I feel in my chest, and sometimes I can't breathe. And it feels like the more quote unquote successful I become, it's like I got a 20-kilo bar on my back and I'm just adding plates on both sides. And man, sometimes that weight gets so heavy and I want to turn to alcohol or gambling or just something to numb myself. And it's in those moments I get to make a choice. Do I go back to the old pattern, or do I choose to keep that weight up without that sedation?
Yeah.
And it's fucking hard sometimes, man.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm getting better. I'm not a master of it. What is self-sabotage?
Me either. Me either.
Yeah, but it's like I used to constantly reach for those things, whereas now it's like never, right?
Yeah.
So can you explain what is self-sabotage? What does it mean? What causes it? And then we'll get a bit into your story that a lot of men can relate to.
In a real distilled form, self-sabotage is we have a point that we want to get to. Let's say we're at point A, we want to get to point B, and think it's like a linear line going up, like 45-degree angle. We want to move from point A to point B. We're making this progress, and then something, it's almost like a hook, catches us and pulls us back down to our baseline. Now, that hook is typically some kind of a trigger that puts us into an overwhelm or reactive state. So really, in its simple form, self-sabotage is when our nervous system goes beyond our window of tolerance and we call upon things that bring us out of the path we want to go towards and back into our old ways.
Mm-hmm. So we're working hard, providing for the family. We want to create financial freedom. We want connection. We come home after a long day. What we really want to tell our partner is how hard it was. She asks how her day was, and we go, it was fine. And then we start scrolling.
Yeah.
That's an example of that hook, right?
Yeah. And what we're doing there is for a lot of men, and there's a discomfort of talking about what the challenge might be, or I can't talk to and unload on my wife. I'm supposed to carry the weight of this. Or I can't unload to her because that's not her role. And so then what happens is it's like rather than feel the thing or be with that discomfort, which we spoke about last week, there's a sense of how do I escape that feeling? And we'll get more into that in terms of the real reason for self-sabotage is people are disconnected from their body. It's like they exist from the shoulders up. You got a neck and a head and everything that's going on down in their body. And this isn't men only. Like I was only on a call yesterday with a woman and she hasn't felt her body since as long as she can remember. Like just getting her to feel sensations in her body was like a holy fuck. And she felt more calm than she's ever felt simply by getting out of her head. And that's a key part of it. And so many men operate from their heads because, like you were saying, we're thinking about work, what we've got to do, the next thing, is this going to work? What's the next step we have to take? Like, especially for business owners, the risk-reward ratio is constant. So
it is constant and it's relentless. And there's nothing wrong with that if we don't let it overwhelm us, but that capacity gets filled. You said something at one of our events, I don't want to butcher it, but self-sabotage reactivates when the nervous system is overloaded.
Yep.
So for somebody listening to this right now, how do they know, one, that their nervous system is overloaded? How do we say that in plain English?
Yeah.
And then how do they know when they're in self-sabotage? How do you identify if you're doing those things?
Oof. First part, how do you know when your nervous system's overloaded?
Yeah.
Is any moment where you don't want to sit with yourself. So if I was to say to you, hey, I just want you to sit in silence for 5 minutes and just be, not do anything. If you're like, you're fidgeting or you don't want to do that, there's avoidance, you're overwhelmed or overloaded. So most men will go, fuck, that's my whole life. Like, I don't want to sit and do nothing. Well, there's the sign. And that's why the self-sabotage keeps playing out. It's why the vices keep landing, because it's constant. And then the second part of the question where you said, how do we know we're self-sabotaging?
Yeah, so like you're overloaded, meaning you can't sit still. And then how does that tie into self-sabotage?
Got you. So the key piece of that, of like, how do you know? That was a big part of my journey, was because I didn't know when I was self-sabotaging, and that was because I wasn't connected to my body. Hence the journey I've gone on to now learn that and go, okay, I need to share this. And so to answer the way we'd work it out, it's actually about being able to connect into the body, get into the body, because that's the only place where the real root of it is coming from. Like, we've got thoughts going absolutely wild, but those thoughts are being driven by a sensation in the body. Almost always, if I say, okay, where are these thoughts coming from? And I get someone into their body, they'll go, fuck, it's here. It feels like a knot. Okay. And as they then be with that knot, or let's say it's in their solar plexus around their power or their worth or whatever, and we spend a couple of minutes there, all of a sudden it starts to unravel. And whatever's been blocked in there, it's kind of like, I explain it as like knots in a rope. We're just undoing the knots so that it's smooth. The energy kind of flows. So the way we become aware of it, or the way we're knowing if we're self-sabotaging, is pretty much any time you can't sit with yourself would be the first thing. And the second thing is the sense of we've got to actually be able to get into our body to know. Otherwise, we just think it's an old habit playing out. And that's kind of where I talk about like 3 categories of self-sabotage, which we'll get into. But a lot of the time people just think, oh, I'm just not disciplined enough. I just haven't nailed my habits enough. Oh, it's just this thing comes in and it feels good. It's like, no, fuck no. Like, that's all happening because there's a driving force underneath that we're not aware of. That's why so many people blind spotted by it, and they think it's like a disorder. Oh, I'm an overthinker. It's like, fuck no. You've just got so many parts active right now that you can't see the forest for the trees.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. It allows us to reach more men, to keep more families together, and to give you more value with the guests that we get on board. So please do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit that bell icon so we can give you even more value. And that lack of awareness can destroy a man. My father growing up, my parents separated when I was 4.5 years old, and all I remember of my father is alcohol and victim and blame. He would be so drunk every third weekend when he was supposed to pick us up for the kids run that some days at midday he couldn't pick us up because he was too intoxicated.
Yeah.
He would fall over all the time and stumble. He'd piss all over the toilet seat. And growing up, I really was angry at my father because I didn't understand.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I realized that he was in a generational pattern of self-sabotage, of victim, of not understanding how to communicate. And I can look back now and go, he wasn't sitting there going, how do I fuck up my marriage? How do I get divorced? How do I ruin my kids? Like, he wasn't planning any of that.
Yeah.
It was all happening because he was overloaded and he
Yeah.
couldn't handle life.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to a lot of men, is no one intentionally fucks up their life.
Yeah.
But a lot of men do fuck up their life.
Yeah.
So how do we help someone like that? Like someone like my father, who's not even willing to admit after 30 years that he's in self-sabotage.
The first thing I'd say there is they need to be ready. I give the analogy of, like, you know, they talk about if an egg is broken from the inside, it brings life. If an egg is broken from the outside, it kills it. It's like that. The chicken will hatch. If we crack it too early, it's not going to grow. It's not going to survive. So there's a level to which years ago I would have been like, we'll force them. We'll use the techniques and the modalities and everything. But there's a truth to everyone. Like, people need to be ready. Otherwise, we're trying to force them something that they might not be ready for. So the first thing is, like, if they're listening to this podcast, they're probably ready. If they're in this work, they're likely ready because they've already started to think about personal development. Most men don't even want to go there because as soon as they think of going to an event or listening to a podcast around self-help or personal development, they imply from societal conditioning that if I need help or improving, it means there's something wrong with me. And we as men don't want to admit that there's something wrong or say that there's something wrong because it kind of means that, well, if we need fixing or helping, it means we're broken. And that's the last thing a man wants to, say or admit to others or feel, because we're the ones that need to provide. We're the ones that need to hold it together. So the first thing is, like, if they're hearing this, it means they're ready to go into that. If someone came to me and they were, great example was actually yesterday. A guy came to me, he's like, hey, I need fucking help. But I can tell that he's like, this is new to me. Like, this work is new. I've never really done this. I did this breathwork thing once. So I was like, the fact that he's been through a breathwork, I was like, that's a good sign. But even that was still kind of this breathwork thing, kind of like, it's not his usual scope or playground. And so the way that I went into it and the way I would then go into it as we start the journey is bringing it to them from a sense of, like, layman's terms, rather than trying to bring the science and, this is imposter syndrome and this is how it plays out from a neurological level. It's like, those times where you just want to you want to go to the gym, but there's another part of you's like, just have the ice cream and lay in bed. Like, you talk from that really easy angle with yeah. And then from there you go, well, what's the main thing that you find yourself doing? And from there, the way we'd go about it is, let's say, for example, when stress gets too much, they go and binge drink on the weekends, which leads to taking the drugs, which leads to the gambling, which leads to whatever it is, fights with the partner. Okay, cool. If we start there for a moment, and this is like a template, we look at, okay, what's been happening before the sabotage occurs. So, okay, on the weekend, this is when I had the bender or whatever it is. Tell me what was going on the 4 or 5 days before this, because you'd been good for 3 months prior, yeah? And he's like, yep, I'd been sweet, been training, eating well, smashing it. So then we find out, okay, well, I had that argument with my partner this week. Okay, what else? Oh, dude, I felt toast. I didn't have enough sleep this week. What else? Okay, I started to eat like shit. So there's already kind of little breadcrumbs showing that we're having challenges.
Yeah.
And we're starting to go to smaller coping mechanisms like the eating's changing. Okay, cool. So what we really want to do is, what's the root here that's causing the breakdown? What's, like, if we think of the bucket, what are the big rocks that are causing the overwhelm of the system, not the little pebbles or the granules of sand? Yep. We look at those and we deal with those first. Because if I take out a massive big fucking boulder from the bucket rather than the granules of sand, they're going to have a lot more capacity a lot more quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like finding out what are the, not necessarily the root, because the root of it will be more a wound. We talk about, like, wounds and triggers. The wound is like your primary pain or your original pain. What happened when you were 10? The trigger is the thing right now that's just like touching on that wound and go, fuck, that hurts. And so we don't necessarily go to the wound to beginning with people when they're they're starting, because that can be really intense. It's like, okay, what's the biggest trigger at the moment that they're like, oh yeah, bro, me and my partner fight all the time. And it might be an insecurity, for example. The original pain of that might be that he didn't feel enough for his mum, or he saw his mum flirting with other men. And so that's the original pain. That's where we might need to get to long term. But to make big change now, it's like, okay, let's start dealing with this.
Yeah. And in layman's terms, it's basically anything that's destructive to you, right? So sabotage is if you're sabotaging an attack back in the day in the army, you're basically like destroying that plan or destroying that outcome. So an example for anyone listening would be, you've had a stressful day, you reach for the bottle. Yeah. You've had a stressful day, you yell at your kids. You've had a stressful day, you reach for a vape pen. You've had a stressful day, you scroll on the phone to numb yourself, and that's your free time. Yeah. You know, we'll get into it a bit later. My wife and I haven't had an argument over a year, and yesterday was pretty bad. Like some shit came up. Yeah. And the whole day today, I've wanted to go get a vape.
Gosh, yeah.
And I just want a hit of nicotine, right? Because I know that it's wrong, and I know that it's self-sabotage, but I'm like, I am overloaded, and I would like to think I'm pretty integrated. I do breath work, I journal, I coach thousands of men, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped gambling, all these things I've stopped doing. I would like to think I'm a good person, but my body is like, I need nicotine. Yeah. What is that? Yeah.
If I was to put it in a really simple way, imagine there's like green zone. So if I could draw it out right now, we've got like, imagine there's like, what would you call it? Like 3
traffic
bars.
Lights? Yeah.
Yeah, we could, okay, easy. That's a great way we could do traffic lights. Imagine the middle traffic light, then you got a top and a bottom. The middle traffic light's green. Yeah. That's your green zone. That's when you're operating inside, let's call it the window of tolerance. Basically, like, you're pretty good. Life's going all right. Things are kind of flowing. It's not too much. You're getting through. Look, for most guys, they think life's all right, and they're actually in the red or the blue zone.
Yeah.
But for this moment, let's talk about, like, let's say for you, Tony, you've been more in that green zone, and things have been going all right. And then what happens is you have this, let's say it's an argument or a breakdown in communication, or there's a stress with work, and it brings you up into, let's say we go up traffic light, the top one is red. Mm-hmm. That's like your sympathetic nervous system. That's going to be your fight or flight response. So basically anything outside of the green is a stress response. Mm-hmm. So above in the red, that's think like fire, fight or flight.
Yeah, danger.
Yep, exactly. So that's being up the top. Below, on the other end, where we go into our parasympathetic, think of that as more like your shutdown. This is your freeze, your fawn, or your fit in. And so let's say, for example, you've been in green and then something, and I'll use me for an example. I had a massive event a few years ago. It was like really traumatic PTSD kind of thing. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I went into shock. And I was actually in shock and freeze for months. I just had no idea. I was sleeping all the time. I was constantly challenged. Didn't know how to get my energy up. And because so much of the work in personal development and all the healing is like, do more of the calming breath work, do more box breath, do more of the meditation, do more of the calming shit. I was already in like the space where I was too calm, so to speak. I was frozen, and that parasympathetic practices would only bring me deeper and deeper into that hole.
Is that like depression?
Yes. So it was like, depression is like a freeze response. We don't know. We feel hopeless and helpless, and that's when we feel stuck. So what then happens is when people are, say, depressed, one of the best things that they can do is go and get active, do the breath work, do the ice baths, go and get in the sun, do the things that get them into that red zone area, like exercise stress. That moves them, because what happens is if they're down in blue, you do the red thing, which lifts you up into the green. If you're in the red, you want to do the blue thing that brings you down. So it's basically just think of like, if I'm up top, I need to use the low stuff to bring me down in the middle. If I'm down the bottom, I need to use the top stuff to bring me up. Most people are already in the red zone, because if they can't sit still for 5 minutes without wanting to fidget or go and do something, or they don't want to sit with their thoughts, it tells me they're in this stress response most of the time. Mm-hmm. But then they want to go and do more. They go do the exercise, they'll do the training, they'll do the ice baths, they'll do the intense breath work, and it's really just like punching that roof. And so because that's happening so often, that's again, it's like they're adding to it. We need to use more of the down regulating tools. So for example, like the vape, for you, it might give you this sense of,
That's exactly what it is. It's only the first hit. Like, I know it's fucking terrible for you.
One
but
breath.
First breath is like you get this rush, and it's so stupid because
Yeah.
I coach men on how to be healthy.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
But it's just that, and I know I can just take a breath and be calm, but I'm like, that breath would be nicer with some nicotine.
Yeah.
And I only think this way when I'm triggered or stressed,
Yeah.
and I often don't get triggered or stressed.
Yeah. So
You know?
what you've explained right there is you've been in the red zone, trigger or stress. Like that's
Yeah.
perfect words. The vape is linked to you. Let's just use the breath for a moment. The breath is going to, if it's a slow exhale, it's more of the blue, the calming. It pulls you down in the green. So the vape or smoking, actually for a lot of people, and there's been studies on this, research done on this, that when they give people a placebo, like a control vape, they get the same response without the substance, without the chemicals, because what's actually happening is it's giving them like a reprieve from the world where they're just there to slowing down their breath. So that's number one for most people. What you're speaking to, where you know that the breath could help, but damn, it'd be nice with the nicotine, is because there's been some neural pathway that's wired the two together, the nicotine with the calming. It's been that outlet in the past. So what we're seeing there is there's just an anchor that this is what really lands me in here. Just like if most people nowadays that are getting into breath work, I feel so good after breath work. Oh, that's their thing. They feel stressed, breath work.
Yeah.
They've had a fight, breath work. They do this, breath work, breath work, breath work, breath work. I was that guy.
Yeah.
Until I realized I'm just band-aiding the fact that I'm not dealing with all the triggers. I'm just kind of fixing it for 15 minutes and then it comes back and then I do it again. And I'm just basically using a blue tool to bring me back down without actually dealing with the triggers or the wounds.
I suppose that is a better way to deal with it though than substances,
Yeah.
because I know for me and many listeners, we have a story, or you call it an anchor, which is a great way of putting it. It's weighing you down that the porn or the nicotine or the alcohol or the screen time is going to help me just get out of the pain that I'm in.
Yeah.
And we know that it's not good. Like, we know that it's bad. Most men who are drinking or smoking or masturbating to porn, they know it's not good, but we do it anyway. And it's this perpetual cycle, and it can become very problematic if it's the cycle day in and day out.
Yeah.
I wrote down here earlier when you mentioned sitting still for 5 minutes, stimulation versus silence. I am that guy. Like, I am listening to audiobooks, podcasts all day, every day. I take my phone into the bathroom.
Yeah.
It is my it's an appendage. It's like an arm.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm doing it. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Why do so many of us struggle to stay in silence and we're constantly looking for stimulation? It's so unnatural.
And I know that you wrote down before dopamine as well.
Yeah, I did.
This links in with the dopamine.
Yeah.
Because, look, I'll come at this. I'm going to give two aspects to this. There's kind of like two answers. The first part of it is that we're actually wired for the dopamine now. We are so connected to these things in our hands, the phone, the iPad, the Netflix, whatever it is. It gives us that constant rush and that feeling of a high. That's number one. So that's actually an addiction. Just like I was a motocross racer. When I stopped racing motocross, I didn't know at the time. I look back now. I started mountain climbing, like doing scrambles on those really steep rock faces. Why? Because it gave me adrenaline. And I was like, if I fuck up, I could fall and die. So it was like I went from one adrenaline fix to the other adrenaline fix. And the same thing happens where now that phones have become more and more prominent and the use of technology has become more and more prominent, it's an easy, quick fix. It's just like, for me, yesterday, I was out on the land, out on property, and during the lunch break, I was like, I could either have a go on the motocross game in Xbox, or I could go and be in nature. It's like, I know what my body wants to do right now, and it wants to fucking, get that, switch off from everything, but I get the high because I'm in that competitive mode, I'm really engaged. The more challenging thing to do is go and walk on the grass and be with the goats and the dogs. It's like, I'm going to go and see how I feel. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to go and do it and see. And as soon as I got out there, I was like, And what's important there is that the gaming makes me feel better temporarily, but it doesn't empty that container. The going for the walk, being still, being silent in nature is an example here, really it's just being the silence. As I'm being silent and the thoughts are sort of just going through and then emptying out, I'm emptying the container.
Yeah.
So what I actually did in that moment of taking that 10 minutes to be out there was I emptied my cup so I had more capacity for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just gamed, I might have felt good then, but I get back into work, I'd be 10 minutes in, I'm like, fuck, I'm stressed. So the first part of that is there's an actual addiction there. that's very easy, and there's been a lot of research on that now too. The second part of it is that when we pick up a phone and we're looking at it, our energy goes from in here to into this.
Just for anyone listening, you said in here, like inside of your body?
In your body, yes.
So when you say energy in your body,
Yep.
what do you mean? Like you're focused on your body instead of in your head?
Yeah. So if I said to the listener right now, all I want you to do for the next 5 minutes is close your eyes, you can pause it, sit in silence, and just notice your body, notice what's there, maybe the thoughts, the sensations. A lot of the time, people will go and they go, the mind's racing first. Again, most people are up in their head. They don't really get into the body. But if they do notice the body, they might notice, fuck, I'm actually quite shaky. I'm jittery. It feels like my chest is tight. Oh, I feel like I got a fucking pit in my stomach. Oh, I feel bloated, or thoughts are racing.
I can't breathe for half of last year. I just felt like I couldn't breathe for half the year.
Gotcha.
It was such a rough feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally felt like I couldn't breathe. I worked through that. So we're in our body. I interrupted you, right? Most people. So walk through that process.
Yeah. So when they take those, let's say they took those 5 minutes, like I just said, and then they realize, oh, fuck, I don't want to sit and be with these thoughts because all I'm thinking about is, it might be the financial stress. Oh, it might be what's happening in the stock market. Oh, it might be the argument with my partner. It might be, shit, I've got so much to do around the house. It's all of these things outside of the present moment, and that's stress or anxiety or worry. And then if they check in with their body and they notice tension, or they notice that whatever the discomfort is, the tight chest, the pit in the stomach, the shaking, that's not comfortable either. So by listening to a podcast or an audio book, scrolling on your phone, your energy and your awareness isn't in here, and your mind is fixed on something else. So when you're scrolling on your phone, you're just taking in what's there in the moment in front of you. If we stop that and I said, now just be with yourself, all of a sudden they notice, fuck, it's racing.
Yeah.
So what happens when we're focusing on the phone, it's almost like, it's not meditation, but it's the idea of meditation where we've got one pointed focus.
It's like hypnosis.
Yeah, exactly. And so when that's happening, we don't have to be with the discomfort. And that's the exact same reason why we'll go into all of the vices, or I call them like coping strategies. We'll go into them solely to avoid being with the discomfort in ourselves. And that's on a day-to-day level, but in terms of like a higher aspect self-sabotage, it's because we've hit capacity of something bigger, and then we need these other things to pull us back down. So it plays out on a micro level day to day, and it plays out on a macro level. And the final thing I'll say to this is that I was the exact same. Like my goal used to be listen to 100 audiobooks in a year, finish 100 books in a year, whether they were paperback or audio. So I was always listening to something or reading something. I was always learning, and I used to get so much pride out of that. Man, I'm learning so much. I'm growing so much. I'm so smart. I know all of this. I can recommend everyone the books. And then over time and through the health journey, and what I eventually realized was this is actually a scapegoat, because there's a lot of stress in my body. And so then when I've stopped now, typically when I drive in silence. When I walk around, I walk in silence. I really struggle getting through books now, although I had the goal of 30 books this year. I'm already behind, because when I have the time or space, I want to be in silence, because building businesses and companies and running them and everything that involves is a lot.
It's already so much, man. It's so much, and we just keep adding. Yeah, so
that for me has been, okay, if I really want to show up the best way I possibly can, I need to trust, for me, that I already know enough, and I don't need to be searching for more and more, and I actually need to honor what my body needs so that I can be at my best when I am on a podcast, or when I am with clients, or when I am setting up a new program structure, or whatever it may be. So it's like the short-term gratification and long-term playing out day to day for everyone.
And it makes sense on a logical, practical level. We all know that we're stressed, burnt out, tired, juggling too many balls, wearing too many hats. And we also all know, if we're listening to this podcast, that going for a walk instead of drinking is going to be more beneficial. We know that being present with our kids instead of scrolling will be more beneficial. But I think I speak for a lot of people when I say we think the scrolling or the substance is going to empty that container. Because that's been my story. I get home, I just need some alone time to unwind. But in reality, when I reflect on it, that isn't unwinding, it's sedation. It is me suppressing the discomfort you talk about. And it is really uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable sitting down at the end of a long day and being like, man, I feel stressed. I'm actually quite frustrated. It's so much easier to just reach for something.
Yeah.
And a lot of men, by the way, who are listening, they don't take drugs or drink.
Yeah.
They just work too much.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're in control.
Yeah.
I want to share a bit of a story around dopamine, self-sabotage, and sedation that I think might be relevant to the listener. I was sitting with my wife yesterday at the park.
Yeah.
I normally work 12 hours a day. I've been deciding recently to work less, have more balance, not sit in self-sabotage, sit in silence.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of myself. It's 1:30 p.m., 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. It was a Wednesday. I'm at the park with my wife and my 2 daughters. My wife's got her head on my shoulder. She's got her hand on my thigh. I'm like, this is amazing. I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't on my phone. I was present. It was so good. And then my wife is talking to one of our good friends about a guy she's seeing.
Yeah.
And she somehow gets on the topic of, he hasn't watched porn in 6 months. And I'm like, that's amazing. She asked me a question. She says, do you watch porn? Now, I'm a very honest person.
Yeah.
So I instantly go, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Her and my wife both look at me like, if you're not watching this right now, like, you piece of shit. It was a very judgmental look.
Yeah, the shame.
Shame, right? And then she goes, well, how often do you watch it? And I'm like, once every 2 months or so. 2 months ago was when I watched it. My wife had just given birth. We hadn't had sex for 10 or 12 weeks, right? 8 weeks, whatever it was, 6 weeks, I don't know. Too long.
Yeah.
My wife starts crying
Wow.
in front of her friend.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I cause any drama? My wife and I don't argue. We haven't argued. We've had a great relationship, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I go over. She's embarrassed. She's upset at me. That night, she's cold towards me, doesn't kiss me goodnight, says she's repulsed by me. I'm like, I just jacked off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider me watching porn self-sabotage. I wouldn't consider it a problem. I don't think it's that bad. I jack off. I'm not thinking about whatever I watched, right?
Yeah.
My wife's tired. I'd rather just jack off,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sharing that with you for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
1,
Yeah.
I want you to help me understand my wife's reaction.
Yeah.
2, I want you to help me understand porn.
Yeah.
Is it a problem? Can it be done in small doses? A lot of men, I think every man typically, most men watch it.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. A lot of men do.
Yeah.
Help me unpack this scenario. Was I self-sabotaging by watching porn? Was I self-sabotaging by being honest with my wife and her friend? Should I have lied? Help me unpack this entire scenario. There's so much to unpack here for a man.
Layers.
Because I think a lot of men do watch porn and they don't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
And it is a form of self-sabotage potentially.
Yeah. First thing I'll address is when you said, was I self-sabotaging by being honest? In my opinion, my projection, no. I don't think it's in my being to be able to lie. I've said this before to a few people, is lying doesn't feel right for me.
That's what I said as well.
Yeah, and so for me anyway, honesty always wins, because even if you lie, you're then hiding something, you're going to continue to carry that. Honesty is how everything is continually released. Now, you being honest to me, tick. The response from your wife, that experience is her own internal trigger of some kind of a wound that's underlying, and it could be around self-worth, in terms of maybe I'm not attractive enough. A lot of women after having children, they're like, I'm not sexy anymore, my body's changed, I'm this, I'm that. So it could be maybe Tony finds more pleasure out of porn, out of these women online than me, so comparison comes in. It could be that maybe I'm not meeting his needs. Typically it will come up some kind of internal shame or internal insecurity. Has he been thinking about women all of the time? Is there no interest here? What's happened to our relationship? What have I done wrong? Because what happens is, when a trigger like that comes up, our parts, the little parts of us, think of us as like, we've got Tony and Todd, the present day men, and then we have the parts of us that get triggered. And they don't act like men. They're like little boys. And we won't go too much into that. We've had, as you've said, plenty of little boy talk before. In essence, there's these parts of us that come up. And they might be 7 years old, 10 years old, 13, and basically they're then running the show.
Can I jump in there really quickly? So this is what happened yesterday. She said, I feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not giving you enough. And in my mind, this is where I go into victim. And I think a lot of men can relate to this. I'm like, babe, I'm attractive. I'm not being a dick. I have a 6-pack. I work out. You never have to work again. I come home early now.
Yeah.
I'm spending less time on my phone.
Yeah.
We have an amazing life.
Yeah.
I'm a great father.
Yeah.
Why are you focusing on this one thing and making it demonic and making me a bad guy and treating me like shit and telling me you're repulsed? And I go into victim.
Yeah.
Whereas instead of understanding her, is that self-sabotage?
Gotcha. There'll be an aspect for... Wait a minute, why is this? So if she's bringing this to you and you're going, hey, I've nailed all of these things. Why is this one thing an issue? Yeah.
That's why most men feel like. It's like, babe, I'm doing all this stuff. Why do you care about the toilet seat?
Yeah.
You know?
And so what's happening here, so we'll start here with you, then we'll go to your wife, is that the first thing that's happening is when there's the why are we focusing on this, almost like why do we have to make this a big deal?
It's not a big deal, like for fuck's sake.
It's like, can we turn the focus away from this because it makes me uncomfortable? So what we're doing is like, I don't want to be with so it comes back again to the discomfort we don't want to feel.
Yeah.
So that for you is the answer there. It's like there's something in there that's true about you do so many things right, but there's something in here that's like fuck, okay.
Well, I feel attacked. I feel ashamed. I'm like, I don't want to feel ashamed in my own house for doing something in my private time that I don't consider to be a problem.
Gotcha.
So now I'm like up at night thinking I'm a terrible person. I'm like, but I'm not a terrible person. And it's this vicious cycle. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So the first piece there is, you said it straight away, like there's ashamed. So shame. Okay. There's
Guilt.
there's some feeling in there that's uncomfortable that if you're actually then able to sit and be with that and go, okay, kind of like being with the little boy, like a resourcing hold. Okay, come on, little fella, like, what's going on? What are you feeling? And then he can then share and go, oh, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. This is happening. This is happening. This hurts. Okay, I hear you. I understand. I get you. Basically, your higher self or your present man holding the little boy. Then that little boy can be heard. He can have his need met of being able to express what he's feeling, which is kind of what he wants to do with the wife. And then you go, what do you need? You know, I need a hug and I need to be let know that I'm not a bad person. Like, I'm doing my best. It's like, absolutely. And so you go through and basically what we do is we reparent the child. And all of a sudden, because the part of you or the inner child, whichever you want to call it for the moment, that when it comes up, when it's activated, it's the thing that causes the discomfort in the body. It's the thing that causes the contraction where it's like, oh, I don't want to feel that. Yeah. And so a part will come in to kind of like protect and stay away from that feeling of shame. This is more like parts work. And this experience of not wanting to stay with the feeling comes when the parts are there and they don't want to be felt. So other parts will come in to protect. And then you'll go 5 minutes. Let's say, for example, you're like, oh, fucking hell, like, why? I'm doing all of these things.
I wanted to do that. I said, I said that in this tone, I'm like, I'm really angry at you right now. I understand your stories. I understand your beliefs, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then I know I'm being a victim and I know I'm blaming her. But like, it's crazy how you know you're doing it and you do it anyway, right? Yeah. So that what you've just said in terms of like knowing that it's there, what happens is there's an aspect of you that's present, like Tony's there, and there's also this part that's kind of like blending, like it's the kid that just wants to be like, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Imagine it's like you've got two mask, like half a mask on, and then there's Tony in that moment. So you've done well in being able to be aware and go, I'm feeling anger, because some of the time it'll just go fucking hell, and then you lose your shit.
I used to do that, and I know that it never serves me, but a lot of men do it. You know.
And what happens when that experience, and the men that are listening to this will know this feeling, who's ever had that experience where you've gone and said the thing and then 3 minutes later you're like, fuck.
Yep, instant shame. It never works.
Have said that.
It never works, and it's your emotional reactions coming out instead of a logical response. Yeah. And I'm not a master at this. Yeah. So to this point, is porn bad? Is porn self-sabotage?
Gotcha. I'll get to that. I'm just going to close that loop first.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when that happens and then you go, fuck, why did I say that? You've come back into who you, like the man, and you go, oh shit. And the biggest thing for men to be able to overcome self-sabotage is to notice when that little boy is there, because he, or for women that might be listening, she is the part that actually causes the self-sabotage. Because yourself, you as the integrated man, me as the integrated man, we can hold everything in the human experience that is brought to us. It's the little parts of us that can't. Think of like a 360-degree circle. Our whole self can hold all 360 degrees. Then we have a part of us from childhood that might be like a 2-degree sliver. That's the angry part. and they can only hold 2 degrees of life coming at them. So they can't hold much at all compared to you. And so that's when they blow up. And so when you can have awareness that, oh, there's a part here, but I'm also present, you can hold the frame and hold the situation. And this is still a daily practice for me in my relationship. But it's gotten a lot better because we actually also communicate, hey, there's a part present, gives us a moment to breathe. And it's like, okay, I can either hold my own part or my partner could hold my part, and we kind of share in that. There's communication. But that is the aspect around self-sabotage that really, like, when we go into those red or blue zones, we pretty well just going into parts of us that are like younger versions. And I said this the other day. Imagine like you had a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old that had some challenging experience with money. Not talking about me. And then every time scarcity comes up in finance, you revert into this old behavior. How do you think a 10-year-old's going to go managing 6 figures in the bank?
Not at all.
Fucking terribly.
Yeah.
They go into the behavior they knew. So that's something that was happening for me frequently. It's like, fuck, okay, now when that comes up, I can hold that boy, and rather than going through the old sabotaging behaviors, I can go, hey, what do you need? I've got this, like the full 360 degrees. We've got this. You can relax. And then what happens is the nervous system relaxes, the body relaxes, and all of a sudden it's like, what would have fucked things up before has now just dissolved and cleared because I had that moment of awareness to be able to check in.
And that requires you sitting in the discomfort of what you're feeling, right?
The first thing it involves is being able to notice your body, have the somatic awareness, which is practice, because noticing when you're in yourself and when you're in a part, you'll notice different feelings. I know when I'm in my, like a tense part in my chest, I know straight away I'm feeling a part. If I feel shaky, I know that there's a part active. Like I know the sensations in my body now. So it's like, as soon as I notice something physically, I know there's a part, I can deal with it. But this is what I mean when people are so caught in their neck and head, they don't notice their body, so they don't know when a part's alive or not. Most people don't even know what a part is because they've never discerned. The only way we can do it is like, have you had a time where you want to go for a run? And then there's another part of you that doesn't, Yeah. That's the answer. So first part, it comes into being able to check in with the body, feel the body. That's like the somatic aspect of it. The second part is then being able to notice in that moment there's a part there which might take a breath or it might take, a resourcing hold. And then the third part of it is actually being able to check in and like, hey, internally what's going on, or letting the person know, hey, there's something present here. Can I just have a minute? And I'll work it out and then I can come back. So that's the aspect of it, the sabotaging part. Now, the truth here is also that your wife in that moment had a part triggered. And that's where the heightened emotion came from. That's where the coldness. So that's one of her, let's call it protection mechanisms, is he's hurt me. I don't want to let him close right now. I'm going to make sure I keep my distance because that makes me feel protected. And like he knows that he's hurt me.
And can I just say, kudos to my wife because she said that yesterday.
Hey.
She's like, I know that I'm just protecting myself right now. And I know that it's my own shit to deal with.
Yeah.
But I actually made the situation worse because I wanted to fix it right then and there.
Yeah.
I said to him, like, you're not wrong for how you feel. I'm not trying to fix you, but I don't want to be in my own house and have my wife not smile at me or not give me love.
Yeah.
And then later that night, she said goodnight without giving me a kiss. And I was so fucking angry.
Yeah.
So how does it, I know we're jumping around quite a bit, but I think this is so relevant to men and relationships is when you know that you're being angry or there's a part of you that's overwhelmed or self-sabotaging, and it's now impacting your relationship and your partner isn't giving you love or appreciation. And you might even know that that's their own shit they're dealing with and that's okay. How do you just sit in the discomfort of not fixing it now? Because dude, I'm like rigid. I normally am so calm. From like 2 p.m. yesterday to 9 a.m. today, I'm like, I want to fix this shit. I called my wife earlier. She didn't want to talk to me. She put me on to my daughter. I'm like, how do I sit in that discomfort?
That's the thing.
It's so hard.
It's that's the real practice.
It's
real
so hard,
practice.
Though. It's challenging. Yeah.
It is. And the reason it's challenging is because we've avoided it for so long that if we had it's getting easier for me to do it, like into even the intense ones. It's getting easy because I'm just continuously practicing. Like going to the gym, you're slowly putting more and more weight on the bar. It's the same thing with this capacity. We build our capacity. Think like exposure therapy. When people need to be able to overcome a fear, they do it through exposure therapy. Little bit, manage it. Little bit more, manage that. Little bit more, manage that. And so it's the same kind of process of feel a bit. Like let's say how I said before, we don't take someone into their original pain first thing. that comes down the track because they don't have fucking capacity to hold that. It'll just trigger them and they probably go into shock, which puts them in freeze. And so then comes the avoidance or whatever their strategy is. So this is where there's a lot of coaches that just want to go balls deep straight away, and it fucks people up. And they're wondering why the results aren't where they want because they're not doing it in a way that kind of like works with their nervous system to keep them in that zone. And so the aspect that's playing out there, like when you said about your wife going, I know that I'm just protecting at the moment. This is where, say, the parts aspect comes in, where if she knew, maybe she does, but if she was able to or knew the exact part that was going on and was able to check in with that part, meet that part's need, within 2, maybe 5 minutes, she would have been fine. And the reason that most, and I'll say this now, everyone needs to know this, is that we're always seeking other people to meet that need. You know how like you wanted to fix it? That's you wanting it to be fixed from her. Her wanting the space, that's her wanting the space from you, because the little child is going, they're the cause of this and they're the only ones that can fix it. The truth is the self, that 360 degrees of the pie, that's the part that deep down all parts want to be held by. Not your wife, not your children, not your parents. And I've done this with so many clients now where I'm like, hey, let me just check in with all of your parts. If I was to go, do they want mum or you? Oh, me. Do they want dad or you? Oh, me. Do they want child or you? Oh, me. And we just go through that time and time again with all different people, and every single time it comes back to me. They want to be held by the self because that's where the deepest sense of safety comes from, because they can fully depend on the self when that relationship's built. It's not going anywhere. The only person they'll ever be with this whole life is that self.
Okay.
All the other people are external, and as a result, they can be, there's like a dependency that's not in their control, so it's not as safe.
If you want to actually take this framework that I shared and apply it to your life, it's part of our Empowered Man Armory and our app that we've spent almost 250 grand on. If you want access to a powerful system where you can use this reframe system I just shared with you every single day, then find me on Instagram at Tony Empowered Man, TonyEmpowedMan. I'll put the link down below as well. Send me a DM saying reframe, and I'll give you this exact framework as well as early access to the Empowered Man app when it launches. Yeah. So let's say I'm sitting there.
Yep.
I'm upset at my wife because she's attacking me and she doesn't see all the things I'm doing well.
Yeah.
She's upset at me because I jacked off to whatever it was that I watched. I don't fucking remember. It doesn't matter. Right? In that moment, I want her to smile, be loving, be caring.
Yeah.
You're saying I need to stop looking for her to give me what I want and just sit with myself, sit with little Tony, sit with the part of myself that feels ashamed or uncomfortable and just be in that. For how long?
Gotcha.
Right? Because I know you're right. I've done a lot of work on myself. A lot of people listening might go, that's bullshit, not fair. I get it. I get to let her unpack it. She's going to resolve it, hopefully. I'm assuming she won't divorce me because I fucking watched some porn 2 months ago.
Yeah.
If she does, that would suck. Right? You never know. So today and yesterday, like for how long do I sit in the discomfort without the problem being fixed? Because let's say, for example, my wife ignores everything else that I'm doing for her, which a lot of wives don't see what their husbands are doing, even though the husbands are also missing a lot of stuff. And let's say her story then becomes, I'm unsafe, I need to divorce this guy. I know for her that's self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because she's been cheated on before.
Yeah.
And her protective mechanism is, I will push you away, which ironically, when she treats me like this, I feel pushed away more.
There it is.
It gives her more of what she doesn't want.
Yeah.
So in a long-winded way, like how long do I sit in that discomfort knowing that I want to fix the problem as a man?
Gotcha. Yeah. And for all of those
who got therapy session, by the
way. For those who got triggered by me saying, you just sit with it before, just notice that that's yours and it's just from something I've said.
Yeah.
And the second thing, which might make it feel a little bit easier, like, fuck, I don't have to just carry the world on my shoulders, is that there are still moments where you'll have the conversation, but it's the real challenge, the real work is how much can I meet the needs with myself and clear it with myself. So let's say, for example, that desiring to fix it is still there. I would be with myself until I don't need to fix it, and then I would have the conversation, because I'm not going to be projecting, because basically what we're saying there is until the part isn't leading the show or fucking things up. Because as long as you want to keep fixing it, you're going to keep pushing onto her, and she'll probably keep stepping back because she wants the space.
I see this all the time. Yeah.
So it's my answer to that is when the compulsion or the impulse to do the thing is dissolved or cleared and you feel like, okay, I'm all good now, then. Now, that can, for some men, that's weeks, months. It might not go away, but that's because they don't know how to feel into their body to actually dissolve it. For my partner and I now, it might be a couple of minutes. We have a big blow up and it's like, okay, if we have kind of rules around it, a framework. If we're both triggered, as you guys were yesterday, we take space. As soon as I feel like I'm good now, I'll just go and I won't go and have a conversation. I'll go, hey, I'm ready when you are. Yeah. And then I'll go back. Then when she's ready, she knows I'm ready. She'll then come in and then we can talk about it. And we have a bit of a framework with that where it's like we self-reveal. Yeah. So the self-revealing, like, hey, there's something that's present for me. Can I share that with you? So I ask after the trigger, we ask. Because then if she goes, yes, it's given me permission to bring it and for her to hold and not rip me to shreds. And like, you know, when you bring something and then they go, yeah, but you do it too.
Of course, yeah.
We've now created an agreement where if that happened, I go, hey, you said you could hold this. And then, okay, yep, I did. And then if she gets triggered again, it's like, okay, take space till we come back.
That's such a long-winded way of doing it, but it works.
It works.
And you know what's funny is like we have done this for years.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I find this so difficult because it's been like over a day now or almost a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to fix this.
Yeah.
And I understand that I get to wait and sit with myself to work through it.
Yeah.
Without spending too much time on this,
yeah.
in your perspective, for a man listening right now, is porn bad? Is there a healthy way as a man to utilize porn or is it something you would recommend against?
Oof.
Loaded as fuck question. But the reason I asked this question is because up until now, this hadn't come up for me. I didn't think it was a problem.
Yeah.
The first time I found porn was in my mother's fucking closet when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
Then I found it in my father's. So both my parents did it.
Yeah.
My wife's Korean background, for her, it's this evil thing, right?
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, it's not evil, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. So I can only project my answer here.
Yeah,
because there'll be sex experts and then there'll be religious people that have completely different views.
Of course.
So my projected view with this is that the damage is in the dose. You know, like if you're doing it once every few months, it's like, okay, I don't really see that as a massive problem, especially if you haven't had that sex for quite a while. And it's like, okay, this is helping me to get off.
Yeah.
That's usually like what porn usually leads to is masturbation, which is a release.
Well, it'd be weird if you didn't masturbate. It's like you're like, oh yeah, I'll take some notes here.
It's a release.
That's why we do it.
Yeah. So from that perspective, my projection is the damage is in the dose. If you're doing it every day and it's like you're using it more than your relationship with your partner, that to me, that's a coping mechanism that doesn't seem healthy because you're not dealing with the underlying issue. If you and your wife have regular sex and you've got a great relationship and communication, that's pretty frequent. That's the mainstay. I'm like, I don't see that as a huge issue. That to me isn't really. I've watched porn before. I would say most people have. And so from that aspect, again, it's like, do I see my relationship with porn as unhealthy? Straight away in my being? No, because I know that my partner and I have our connection. Something that came up for me the other day, which was really interesting, was, how did it come up? So I'm going to give context to this for a moment. So my partner, one of her best friends is like a women's embodiment coach. Talks a lot about sex and intimacy and relationships. So she's learned a lot in that space. And that's right. I'd said to her something about, I was like, my sex drive is through the roof at the moment. Like if I could go, so sorry if my family's listening to this. Mum will be like, Todd. If I could go 4 times a day at the moment, I would. Like, it's there.
Yeah.
And Susie's like, not that much. I'm like, okay. And then I was saying, like, this is quite challenging because I'm doing my best to channel it into my work, but it's like, it's flowing.
I feel you, man. I want to have sex every day. And my wife and I have a once a week rule, and it's not really enough, but like, she's tired and had a baby, but I'm like, I want to fuck every day.
Yeah. Got you. So the drive is there.
100%.
And so I'm going to make sure I finish this before I get to the other point. So there's another point I want to raise there around like, I'll come there. That the conversation with my partner was that this is really strong. And she's like, hey, you can masturbate. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? She's like, you can masturbate. It's fine. And I was like, no. I'm in a relationship with you. I don't masturbate outside of us. And that's been almost all of my relationships as long as I can remember. When I'm in a relationship.
My wife would love you.
And I think this came from the conditioning it did. From my childhood, I was brought up in a Christian religious background.
Yeah.
And as soon as I went into relationship, I felt so much shame if I was ever to masturbate or watch porn or anything like that, because I was like, I felt like I was cheating on my partner.
Well, that's the story my wife
Yes,
has, is
yep.
because you're doing this, you are looking at that person or thing. She doesn't even know what it is. It could be guys for all she knows. It's not.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like you want that.
Yes.
And it's like, no, I don't. I just want to come.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've had that same experience, not as a projection of another, but of my own. Well, if I'm doing it myself, then I would undoubtedly project it onto my partner. Mm-hmm. But what she said was like, and these are the words she said, your pleasure is your responsibility. Your pleasure is your responsibility. You need to take your self-pleasure as your own responsibility. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, I self-pleasure all the time. I was like, huh, okay. She's like, yeah, that's a healthy thing. Like, I know my body and I like that feeling, and I'll go through and I'll have my practices. And I know that she has. We've spoken about this. But I was like, yeah, it's fine for you, not for me. And so her saying that to me, I was like, so you're all right if I masturbate? And she's like, I'm absolutely fine with it.
But to porn or just masturbation?
We didn't really discuss that.
Because I think there's a distinction there. I don't think my wife would care if I masturbated, but as soon as there's porn attached to it, it's now a problem.
I don't think my partner would.
Yeah.
And I think that comes because of her safety within me knowing our connection.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the triggering lies in the person that has the issue.
And that's why it triggers me, because I'm like, I've chosen to do life with you forever. Yeah. And wouldn't you rather I do this than go elsewhere?
And so noticing now that this will be when you guys do have that conversation, it's like first sitting with myself till I don't need to fix or change this, till I just want to hear her. That's the first thing. I just want to hear you. Because that's what she's really waiting for, is for her to be heard, and rather than you trying to fix it. Mm-hmm. And then can I just sit and hear her? It might be half an hour, it might be 2 hours. She might say all of the things you disagree with. And I learned this from a friend of mine, Lindsay. He said, validation does not equal agreement. Validation does not equal agreement. She could be telling you you're the worst person in the world and porn is for the devil. And you could completely disagree, but you go, okay, I understand. You feel like porn is the worst thing in the world and it's for the devil. And she goes, yes, you get me. Oh, thank you. And you're like, I don't agree. But she feels heard now. And all we're needing to do is get to a point where she then feels heard and you go, okay, I understand. And I get it. And then from there, she might go, okay, and what's the truth for you? And you might go, do you feel like I could share and you can hear me? Mm-hmm. And what you're then doing is basically bringing the truth within you, but not in a violent communication way of like, you did this and you said that and this isn't true. It's like, this is what's real for me. Mm. And so now we're getting a bit more into relationship communication, but that's the essence of it.
I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
I think this is very relevant. Like, my wife and I have been to therapy a long time ago, because if I looked in the direction of another woman, her story was he wants to fuck her. Yeah. And 6 hours after the fact, she'd be like acting all annoyed. I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing, I'm fine. Eventually. 6 hours later, I saw the way you looked at that woman. I'm like, what woman? Yeah. Because you know, as a man, you don't know what she's talking about. Yeah. And I know that for her, this is a wound. Yeah. I also wish that she just didn't give a fuck. And it's that balancing act, right? Yeah. It's like, because in my mind, what I'd like to say to my wife, she might listen to this, is like,
I was going to say, if she's been listening, bless you.
I'm a guy and I'm going to look at other women and I'm going to watch porn and that has nothing to do with you. And it's simply because I'm a guy, I see beauty and I will always love you more than anything. And you're the most beautiful woman in the world to me, right? So maybe that's something I get to remind her of. But I feel even ashamed because of my wife's triggers to tell her I'm going to look at women, I'm going to watch porn because I know that's going to cause so much angst within her.
So what you could do there is, hey, what would you need to feel like the ultimate safety with me? The ultimate safety where you know that I could look at anyone and nothing will change. And she might not have an answer. She might go, but if you look at anyone, and then it's like, okay, this isn't something I'm able to help with here. This is probably more a you, like, not saying this is a you thing, but that's kind of like where there's a responsibility for that to be dealt with. Because if you mean what you say and say what you mean, there's a truth to that. And so there's a really important part there of like, hey, what could I do to create that safety for you? And then you do all those things. And then maybe she's all right because she feels like you've really worked on that.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two thing, which is really important for everyone listening to this, is if you're a masculine male, you will be attracted to feminine females. If you're a feminine female, you will be attracted to masculine males. There's no part of me that's fucking delusional enough to think that my feminine ass woman is not going to see masculine men and go, wow, he's sexy. It's human nature. Like, our reproduction is based on that. And so one really key thing for everyone to get is, if you're a man and you have a partner, or you're a woman and you have a partner and they don't want you looking at other people and that's being suppressed in you, that suppressed stuff, think of a volcano, it keeps getting pushed down, eventually it pops. And so what typically happens is that energy that's been suppressed constantly, it's like it's got to find its way out and it'll start to leak. And you might not look at a woman, but then what starts to happen is you're at a cash register, or cash register nowadays, you're paying for something, and she smiles at you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, how's your day been? And that little bit of a moment, you're not necessarily checking her out, but you're getting a bit of exchange of energy. There's a sexual energy that you're wanting to actually be able to look at, ooh, yeah. You're not being able to do that because of the shame or the judgment that's being suppressed with it, that's causing it to be suppressed, and then it starts to leak out because it's too much for the system. And so this is where, again, communication comes in, and it's like, okay, what needs to be done for her to feel safe?
Yeah.
And that's so important, because my partner and I will discuss this and go, like, very early on, I was like, I just want you to know that I'm not one of those guys that will pretend that women aren't attractive. You are the most gorgeous woman. I'm so attracted to you. But there's also a truth in our biology that you'll find other men attractive, and I'm all right for you to look, and vice versa. We then have boundaries of, there's no physical touch. There's no bringing energy in or exchanging sexual energy. That's our sacred stuff. But we can look, absolutely. And with that comes like a healthy safety, because I know she's not hiding it, and she knows I'm not hiding it. If there's a woman that walks past, I'm not making a big deal out of it, but my eyes might catch it and have a look, and she'll see me and she's like, She might put her arm around me, which is that moment of her wanting that security. It's like, cool, I've got you.
I crave for my wife to do that, for my wife to be like, yeah, she's attractive, But again, we want these things, and you're right, it's emotional safety and security. I know my wife, when she feels safe and secure, she will see me look at another woman and she won't say a thing. And maybe she has a moment of trigger, but she'll work through it. So this is always a reminder for me and anyone listening, when you're pissed off or upset at your wife for how she's behaving, it's often a reflection of you, and it's something I get to work on. And I get to get out of my own victim of, but I'm doing all this other stuff. Wife, do you not see any of it? And that's the challenge here.
Before we move on, there's one thing I want to say.
Sure, absolutely.
We were in our brotherhood community call the other day, and this literally came up. And one of the things, I'm not a men's work coach. I want to make that very clear. I don't only work with men. I work with men and women because that's not my thing. And what I have seen time and time again in the space of men's work or women's work, and I hate to say it, but there can be this real aspect of the boys getting together and the girls getting together, not the men and not the women. And there's this sense of, you do this and this, if she's not meeting your needs, then fuck her off. Or she needs to work on it herself. She needs to be better. She needs this. So there's all of this projection, because it's like, what happens is one man's trigger validates another man's trigger, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, see, my wife does that too, or my partner does that too. And they're like, yeah, bro, if she's not doing that, then she needs to take responsibility. She needs to improve. And there's so much blame casted on the partners. And I've seen it in men's groups, I've seen it in women's group, because I'm blessed to be a part of both. And there can be this real toxic blaming and shaming of the opposite sex or the partners. And this came from, you would know Jacob O'Neill. I had a conversation with him a while ago, and it punched me in the face. And that's why I wanted to share it, because we were having a conversation and I was seeing around me in some of the men's work and the men's coaches that it was like, if they were having challenges and they were doing the work, it's all the woman's fault. She hasn't done enough work. She hasn't taken enough responsibility, X, Y, and Z. And he basically just said to me, he's like, if your woman's got shit, how much deeper can you go within yourself? And I was like, okay. And what I mean by that, what I've taken on is, how much can I own, not from toxic bypassing of like, fuck her, I don't matter, only she matters. But if my journey in life is to be the most integrated, embodied man I can be, how much can I hold that is her stuff, but how much can I choose to lean in to create safety in her for her stuff? It might be something that I can't fix or change. I can't even heal it. That's for her to go and do with her therapist. but how much can I show up deeper than I've ever shown up before? Because that is the work anyway. It doesn't actually matter if it's about her, because if it wasn't going to work in this relationship, it'd happen in the next. And I'd do the same thing. Oh, she needs to work on that. So my view on it now is like, how much deeper can I put my sword in the ground? How much deeper can I put my roots in, where I'm going, this is absolutely hers, but where could I deepen myself so that I have more compassion or more understanding or more capacity to hold that and commit to choosing this? Because what that's really doing is just making me a better man anyway. In my relationship, in my health, in my business, in the people I support, in the people I work with. Because now there's more and more responsibility that I'm choosing to take. Not that it's she's throwing it on me like I have to, but if I make a conscious decision to go, how much deeper can I go within myself? That to me is a real fucking work.
Yeah.
Like that's what I feel like men's work needs more of. And sharing that the other day in the group, some of the guys were like, fuck, wow, I haven't heard that in any of these other groups that I've been in before. It's been like, yeah, if they don't meet us on these 3 things, they need to work on that. And he was like, the guy that I was talking to is from overseas, saying, whoa, I wish I could do his accent. Like this, that American accent of like, whoa, what do I need to, fuck, I'd wreck it. What do I need to do? Like, how can I actually deepen? And then when he came back to me later and just sent me a message, like, I can already feel how much more deep my commitment is now to my work. And like how much I want to choose this more with my health, because more responsibility means the self-sabotage stuff also is then looked at face for like head to head.
Yeah.
You're not kind of going, oh no, it's just this. It's like, okay, no, I'm the one doing it. So where can I take more responsibility?
I truly understand that. And I know every level up in my relationship has come from me taking ownership.
Yeah.
I right now feel victimized. I feel like it's unfair. I feel like it doesn't need to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And I know that I get to work on that instead of blaming her. And it's incredibly difficult, but it's also the next level up for myself.
Yeah, bro.
So I think a lot of men listening right now, if you are going through relationship issues, if you are blaming your partner, they have a massive role to play. They're not blameless, but you can't control them.
Yes.
And ask yourself, what can I own here? And how can I understand this person? I don't need to agree, but I get to understand. Seek first to understand before seeking to be understood. Right? Yeah. We've spent a lot of time on relationships, which is awesome because it means we have to do a part 2. We started on self-sabotage, and thank you for sharing everything there. What are your strategies for dealing with self-sabotage? I know you have your ladder. I know you have these tools. If you can just rapid fire the strategies and tools for dealing with self-sabotage for a man.
Got you. First thing I would look at is what's the primary form of self-sabotage. So what category do they fall into? Is there, they have a quiz on this that people just go through and basically it spits out the answer at the bottom. Is it number 1, emotional dysregulation? Is it number 2, habits, like negative habits? Or is it number 3, their sense of self, their identity?
So can you break those down for me?
Yeah, so emotional dysregulation is basically, in an essence form, if they fall into that category, it's the overwhelm, it's the stress, it's the fuck, this is all too much.
So that's the first form of self-sabotage.
Yes, first kind of category they'll fall into. It's like it's a physical thing, or like or the anger or whatever it is.
Okay.
That, which then will lead into second part, which is the habits. But the way we'd categorize the habits separate to emotional dysregulation is they might not necessarily feel that way. They're just like, it just doesn't matter. Hey, like it's all right. Like I can game a little bit, or I can watch the porn a bit, or I can have the vape or whatever it is. It's not necessarily a big emotional thing where they feel overwhelmed. They just kind of here and there revert back. They kind of like loop.
It's like a numbness.
Yep. A lot of the time those people that fall into that are more numb from their body.
Yep.
So they're not as sensitive. So that's the second area is the habits that revert. Knowing full well that self-sabotage in its essence is habits that recycle, but it's still being able to notice that there's a difference between the two. Mm-hmm. So I notice for me that a habit that I get I challenge with is when I can't go all in on my training, which I've had with my knee issue with jiu-jitsu. When I can't go all in, I'm like, if I can't go all in, I don't really want to go to the gym. So I haven't trained much in the last 2 months. That's not an emotional dysregulation thing. It's not a sense of self thing, which we'll get to in a moment, the third. But there's something there around the habit that comes in where it's like I'm not valuing it enough if I can only go and do rehab stuff, or I can't lift to my full capacity. So that's a habit one. The third category is the sense of self, self-worth, the story. So it's like opportunity comes up. No, I'm not good enough for that. Or maybe I shouldn't. Or can I really do that? Or let's say they're going to speak to a group. Who am I to be speaking to a group? It's the internal dialogue, the imposter syndrome. That's the third area. It's not necessarily feeling overwhelmed. It's not habits. It's the story of who I am that then pushes things away, or that I always do this to myself. They're the three categories we look for. Once we've kind of got a little bit clear on what the category is, because how we work with them is slightly different, we would then go into what you mentioned before, like the feeling doing gap. So if we kind of had this as the illustration, imagine most people that want to move from A to B, what we were kind of like talking about back at the start, they want to go on this linear trajectory from where they are to where they want to be. But the thing is, as soon as they go beyond where they are and who they've been before, and they step beyond that, they're now in that, uncomfort, discomfort, the unknown zone. That is a stress response on the body. If you invest more than you ever have, if you're eating less to cut down more than you ever have, if you're having deeper conversations with your partner more than you ever have, that's a stress response because it's new and unknown territory. So what needs to happen is, rather than you just going at that, balls deep, balls to the wall, I should say, like every single day, that builds up stress. Each time you're out of that old zone, you have a small stress response. And if that continues day after day, eventually you'll get to a point where you have the big sabotage and you fall back because you've hit that capacity that's been overwhelmed.
So you're constantly doing more, having more, being more, reaching a new level in business, having difficult conversations, working on yourself. And that's all positive. It's growth. It's a positive stress, like a sauna or a gym workout. But if you just do that, then there's a point where your body or capacity gets overwhelmed. And then the big self-sabotage happens.
Yes.
Which for many men is every 6 months that bender. Or every 6 months that blow up with the wife, or some men cheating, or some men gambling.
That's exactly right.
And for some men it's 6 months, for some men it's every month, some men it's every week, right? Okay.
So that's exactly what happens. They basically get to a point where it's too much for the system, and they're typically in the red, and then they want a hard blue. Alcohol is, being a depressant, it's something that brings you down.
Because you're so red and stressed, so you bring yourself down with alcohol. As soon as you have that drink, you feel
Why do men have a beer at the end of the day rather than a water or a juice? Because it's the alcohol serves, it's exactly the tool I said, the green, the red, and the blue before. It is the blue that brings them out of the red down towards the green. So I lost my train of thought.
Doing, feeling, being.
Gotcha. Yep. So if they just continue to do, again, without awareness of their body, they're just doing, and they're subtly having these changes where it's like, fuck, my heart's racing a bit harder today. My body's shaking a little bit more. I'm a little bit more agitated. I've been scrolling a bit more. My mind's racing more. They're not actually aware of those things because they're not having the moments of stillness to check in. It's like not servicing your car. You don't know what's going on if you just keep driving it. Then all of a sudden it blows up. That came out of nowhere. Well, no, it didn't. If you got it serviced, you would have found out and fixed it. So that's how most people operate. So what we want to do instead is you find out what that thing is you want to do a bit more of. Like, let's say it's investing a little bit more. We use that example. Or having that conversation with your wife. You do that, then you check in afterwards. Okay, how did that feel? You might even check in during. How am I feeling as I'm about to spend on that bigger investment? Or I'm about to have that conversation. I'm feeling, okay, what am I noticing? And then, okay, my heart's racing. Right, am I doing it? This is happening. I'm feeling shaky. Then you might use some tools. You might use a bit of breath, because this is one of those moments where you actually will use the tools, the functional tools, to bring you back towards green, so that when you do the thing that was a stress response before, you've done it from a grounded green zone, inside your window of tolerance, basically. What happens then is you're like, oh, I feel all right. Then maybe you actually do the thing, and then the stress is there again. Fuck, oh no, what happens if the stock market crashes? What happens if those things happen? And then feel that. Okay, creating the space for that. Sitting still, using some breath, using some grounding tools, feeling the backside of your body. That's a really simple one that helps, because that's the rest and digest side of the body. Feeling the backside of your body. Okay, I'm all right. And rather than just doing the thing and moving on to the next, kind of like, how we said before, we're not, by scrolling on the phone, we're not emptying, we're just dissociating, or what was the word you said? Sedating?
Sedating, suppressing and sedating.
Yep. If you create that little bit of space, you can be with it, notice it, process it, and now you've integrated. So that's now your new baseline. Your old baseline was before. You've now done a thing, felt it, integrated it, created safety in your nervous system. Cool, that's your new baseline. So then you do that again. Do the thing. Oh, shit, feeling this. Okay, feel it, process it. I've done the thing and I'm safe and I'm good and I didn't stay in the red. I came back to green. Cool, I'm safe now. Do it again. Do it again. And you just keep do, feel. Think you've never public spoke. You might start with doing a face-to-camera video on Instagram. Fuck, I'm nervous about posting it. You press post, regulate, go through that process. Then you might do it again and again and again until the time comes where you get asked for a public speaking opportunity and then the same thing comes up. Okay, can I do this? Yep. And then the same thing, you're building tolerance. So you might go through it, feel really nervous the first time, but be able to ground and regulate enough where you get through and you're like, okay, I made it. So then the next time you can draw on that level, hey, I've done this before. And then what happens is through that process, you're actually hitting all three. You're creating emotional regulation, tick. You're overcoming old habits where you would have avoided or shut down, tick. And turning them into more like high performance habits. So this is what I do now in this situation. And number three, every time you do the thing, you're building a sense of self of this is who I am. I'm a public speaker now. I've done it twice. So that's the steps we would go through in terms of the doing, feeling gap. And that's also the way we overcome imposter syndrome in a really practical way.
I've seen this play out. So my default response to stress or my capacity being overloaded was panic. Deep panic. So I had coaches and mentors, and my strategy for dealing with that panic was send audios about how fucked up things were. I've got journal entries like everything's fucked, nothing's working. So without realizing it, trigger, another tax bill, 50 grand. Panic, action, feeling without even realizing it, stress, overwhelm, fear, doubt, uncertainty, what most business owners feel on a daily basis. And then my action subconsciously was everything's fucked. I need help, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to today, and I can see, for example, a few days ago, I thought we had some money, another tax bill, 120 grand. I'm like, for fuck's sake, like, when does this end? So I'm sitting here, and instead of doing what I used to do, which was panic, overwhelm, I sat in the emotion. I'm like, what am I feeling? So I did what you said. I breathed. I'm feeling fear. Okay, what am I afraid of? I'm feeling stress. Where do I feel that in my body? And I just sat in the emotion for like 3 minutes. And then I'm like, well, I felt this before. I've never gone to zero. All these stories aren't true. Thank you for coming up again feeling. And I just went about my day calm. And it was this, it's so liberating because you realize all your anger, all your fear, all your doubt, all your wanting to drink or smoke or vape or gamble or scroll, it's all just a byproduct of you being overwhelmed and you not sitting in that overwhelm. And if you can just create the stillness and the slowness to check in with yourself multiple times a day, you repattern, you create a new way of dealing with shit. And it's not that the world gets easier. Like things are challenging. They are challenging, and they will get more challenging the more successful you become. But you get better at dealing with those challenges from a frame of calm and a frame of peace and a frame of certainty, knowing that no matter what, you'll figure it out. You might not know how, but you know in your heart of hearts, I've got this. And that for a man is a place of power. It's not tyrannical power, it's peaceful power. And it's a place that's very powerful. It's something I forgot to do yesterday with my wife, but it really, really is powerful. Now, obviously, we'll do a part 2 here. Anything else you want to add to tie all this together when it comes to the relationship stuff we talked about, the doing, feeling, being gap, and the self-sabotage journey that we've been on? What's the biggest sort of takeaway for anyone listening?
When a trigger comes up, a trigger arises every day for most people, remembering that the trigger is just activating an old wound from when you were younger. So whenever a trigger arises, being able to have the compassion that, okay, this is a little version of me, a little kid. Sometimes it helps to imagine like, okay, there's 5-year-old Tony or 7-year-old Todd that's just been hurt. And it's like, how would you hold a little child that's feeling really terrified about something? You're not going to be like, fucking, you'll be right. Let's just push on. It's like, what do you need right now? And so when a trigger arises, that's number one, knowing that it's from a wound from earlier years and the part of you that's being triggered is actually a little boy or little girl inside. When we then have that, what's really important to know is that rather than going, yeah, you're here, it's fine, we'll keep going, because then they don't feel heard, it acknowledges, but it doesn't actually heal, because then they feel suppressed again. Oh, you didn't actually hear what I had to say. I've come up for a reason to try to share something so that you can hold me. And so this is where we get the parts work. And this is where the deeper work comes in. It's like, okay, can we sit with it? And then do we have the tools to be able to go, okay, what is it you're trying to tell me? So that's when you might be checking in with your body rather than go, okay, you're here, cool, I felt you, let's go. It's when that sensation's there, okay, what's going on? Like an internal conversation, you might have your resourcing hold. That's a somatic practice we use. It might be as simple as, okay, body, what are you trying to tell me? Or parts, what do you need from me right now? And they might go, and internally within your body, again, this is why we need to be able to work below the shoulders, because the answers are all in here. They'll go, it might be something like, I need to know that it's going to work out. Like, when you're saying the things about we're not going to zero, we're never been there before. What I can hear is there's a part of you that's afraid of that.
It's afraid of failure, afraid of going to zero.
Yeah.
Little boy who's afraid of having nothing.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. So when that little boy's there, it's going, okay, what are you afraid of? And then when he gets to voice and be heard, just like a little kid when they're telling you why they want the ice cream and you go, no. And then you say, why is it you want the ice cream? And all of a sudden they're, kids kind of change. Like, you care now? Oh, okay. And then they start to calm a bit and they're willing to actually converse with you, not just fucking throw a tantrum. That's the same thing that's happening internally every single day. So when we can check in, when we can hear that part, hold that part, then you go, okay, what is it you need? They'll likely just go, I just need you, as present Tony, to reassure me that we'll get through this, that it'll be all right. We've got through it every other time. Is that right? And you're like, yes, every other time. And then you can kind of explain and reassure. And then you're like, is there anything else? And they're like, no, as long as you're doing your best, I trust you. You've got through it before. Cool. Love you, little fella. Just know that I'm here whenever you need me. Just let me know. Do the sensations or whatever, and I'll check in. I'll hold you. This is our relationship. This is our journey now. And it might sound a bit like, oh, fuck. But what that is actually doing is that's enabling you to overcome all of the self-sabotaging patterns in business, relationship, finance, health, all of them. Because all of the stuff that keeps you small or keeps you stuck, that keeps playing out the old patterns, comes from the little parts of you that don't know how to handle the situation, so they go to the vices. It's that simple. When we can start to build that relationship, like that's actual self-acceptance, self-love, self-worth, because it's all of the answers are coming from within ourselves. And so then what happens is I still have my mentors and my therapists and coaches. But for me, it's like I want to go for them for deeper things. And then once I've gone deeper, now I hold these parts at a deeper level. So it's just a further and further embodiment. Mm-hmm. So that ties in all of the areas of life. It's like that practice. Can we, for everyone listening, the key things, can we move below our neck into our body? When we do that, can we create space to hear and listen to our body and what's coming up? Because the parts of us will always bring it up as sensations. And then from there, can we hear them and hold them? And as we do that, the whole body calms, relaxes. We go from red or blue into the green. And all of a sudden, we're like, fuck, I can do this thing that I never thought I could before. Bang.
Slow down. Yeah. Slow down and sit with yourself as a man or woman and just listen. And you might think you're too busy or you don't have enough time, but it will save you so much time and heartache in the future. It will make you way more money. You'll have way more connection. Just slow the fuck down. Yeah. Thank you so much, Todd. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bro.
If you want to actually take this framework that I shared and apply it to your life, it's part of our Empowered Man Armory and our app that we've spent almost 250 grand on. If you want access to a powerful system where you can use this reframe system I just shared with you every single day, then find me on Instagram at Tony Empowered Man. TonyEmpoweredMan. I'll put the link down below as well. Send me a DM saying reframe and I'll give you this exact framework as well as early access to the Empowered Man app when it launches.